Communication apprehension, in my opinion, is a measure of social anxiety triggered by the act or the anticipated act of communication. One experience I had with group communication apprehension in particular was at the busiest night I've ever had at work up to this point. I work at a restaurant that tends to have a lot of guests, and our dishwashing machine was broken that day. And to boot, that night we had the longest reservation list I'd seen up to that point. So we had to use our backup sinks, which were in the back of the kitchen where the cleaning supplies were. We started off uncoordinated and inefficient because of the different and more cramped workspace back there. My two other co-workers seemingly tried to make do with the circumstances, but while I was working, I spent some time observing them, the waiters and waitresses, and the chef, thinking how we could be running more efficiently. The entire situation itself was pretty anxiety inducing, and I knew it wasn't going to get better if I didn't speak up to everyone about it. And I finally made the decision to speak up. Firstly, to the chef. He respects me as an employee, but behaves somewhat harshly to the waiters and the waitresses. I spoke to him, and I told him that I would direct the waiters and waitresses so they knew where to put the dishes, the dirty dishes, and the such. I then spoke to my two co-workers, discussing with them briefly the most efficient method to doing our job. Two of us would worry about the bulk of the dishes, and one of us would take the silverware to another sink we had on the opposite side of the kitchen that we could use and wash them there. After we made the necessary adjustments, we were just barely able to keep up with the rate of dirty dishes coming in, which, as bad as it sounds, was undeniably better than before. The two strategies I used that night and in other applicable situations that were explained in Matt Abrams' TED Talk about dealing with anxiety-inducing situations was cooling down my body and my head and greeting my anxiety. I would take a towel, I would soak it in cold water, ice cold water, and then I would hang it around my neck to keep my body and my head cool. And then I would also wipe down the back of my head and neck and press it against my wrists. As explained by Abrahams, the logic behind this strategy is similar to holding and drinking a hot cup of coffee to warm yourself up when it's cold outside or inside. This would especially help on the busier nights when I was, moving around a lot, and especially in and out of the area where they actually do the cooking, because that's where it would be the warmest in the kitchen. The second strategy, greeting my anxiety, is as simple as it sounds. By welcoming instead of fretting against or over my own anxiety, I found that it helps you a lot to see that some things just aren't as scary as they seem at first glance. And with these strategies, I'll be able to increase my efficiency in handling situations where I could be reasonably subject to communication apprehension. I can be less hesitant and stay cool, calm, and collected as I progress through a given situation, and I'll gain confidence in my ability to communicate effectively to an audience.